Hello, everyone. Today, I am so excited to talk about podcasting. Podcasting is such a great strategy to get the word on out there. But when we're getting started as tutors, a lot of us don't have a following. So, if you were to start your own podcast, how in the world would you be able to reach people? Well, you're going to find out how can podcast guesting help you, along with coming up with a podcast strategy help you overall in being able to get the word out there about who you are. Because one of the biggest problems we have isn't that we're not good at tutoring, it's that not enough people know that we exist. So today I have Julia Hickman here today, and Julia's a wife, a mother of two, and she's also a business growth strategist specializing in podcast coaching, you guys. She helps heart-led entrepreneurs like us uh, monetize podcasts that help them elevate their voice, impact their bottom line. And in her personal life, she loves running, reading, and traveling with her family. I think I love all those things too. So I'm so excited to have you, Julia. Welcome.
Thank you, Joanne. I'm so happy to be here. I haven't been on a podcast like yours before, so I'm excited to really niche down and talk about some specific tips and ideas for tutors so they can grow their business
Yeah.
with podcasting.
Yeah, and I thank you for opening up your heart and your wisdom and your knowledge to us because, as tutors, we really do love what it is that we do, and the toughest thing is kind of in the beginning getting the word out there that we can be there and be helpful and serve. And there's so much knowledge I think that tutors bring to the table, and there's so many podcasts that would be open to having them on that it's a great, great opportunity. I know for me, I've been on over 100 podcasts in the last few years, and I've gotten clients. I've gotten some of my ideal students, homeschool students, just through podcasting. I have lots of other strategies as well, but adding that into the whole mix of things that it is that I do has been invaluable to me as a business owner. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with using podcasting, how you got started, and where you are today?
Sure. So, like I said, I came across podcasting as a guest, first of all, and this was when I was still pretty new in my fitness business. So it wasn't like I had this, you know, super successful fitness coaching business yet. It was still pretty brand new, but I had heard of the benefits of podcasting as a guest. I definitely was not. If somebody at that point said to me, "Oh, you're going to have your own podcast one day," I would have been like, "What? No, you're insane." But I started out by podcasting because I love talking about, I mean, we all love what we do, right? Like, so we love talking about what we do and how it can help someone. So by going on being interviewed by other people, it sort of made it even easier to share that message because we hear a lot about this whole like, oh, you need to go online and make videos. And not everybody's comfortable making videos. I think they're great,
Mhm.
but not everybody is super comfortable doing that or even like knowing what to say on a video. But when somebody's asking you questions, so whether it's on a video interview or a podcast audio interview, like that, they kind of help take that pressure away because they're giving you the questions. So you just have to be yourself and answer the questions.
Yeah.
So that was one of the great things that I loved about it right away. And then the more that I learned about podcasting, such as how it's still such an up and coming um platform, really. I mean, I don't have the specific stats, but in the year 2021, I think it was definitely under 150 million listeners.
Mhm.
Were people were listening to podcasts, and then last year that number rose to like over 400 million.
Mhm.
So it's like people are just loving the accessibility, the convenience of being able to consume content, to learn things, be entertained, and they can do it just by having a show in their earbuds while they're driving, while they're doing laundry, while they're going on a walk. So it's, especially in our busy lifestyles, it's such a great way for people to to get to learn more about the things that they want to learn about.
Mhm.
So I definitely see that as a huge benefit for content creators. And I'm saying content creators for really anybody who has any online visibility. I mean, that's how we kind of have like our doors are open signs, right? By creating content, we let
Yes.
people know that we are open for business. And even if you're not online, and I can share some more ideas with you too, if you're listening and you're like, okay, well, I'm not an online tutor. I do everything in person. I have some ideas for you too. But also another great benefit of podcasts that um is worth pointing out is a lot of people are like, especially if they're newer to the online space. So let's just say like you're a teacher and you're becoming a tutor now, or you're adding on a tutoring as a side business. Let's say like going on social media, that's not your idea of like, doing like, yeah, you want to have this tutoring business. You want it to be fun. You want it to be like financially, worthwhile for you. But being on social media all day, every day is not like your cup of tea. So a podcast is not social media, right? It's you actually own your content, what you create on there, and it's evergreen, meaning somebody, so let's say, I'm recording this episode with Joanne. Let's just say, the episode goes live next month, right? Somebody
Mhm.
can find it in October, November, and be like, oh, wow, this is so interesting. I want to learn more about what Julia, has to offer, or, I want to just follow her and see what she's up to. And they can follow me and then connect with me. And, there's that connection. So
Mhm.
it's that content, like this content that we're creating right now, has a much longer shelf life than if you just made a post on like Instagram right now, where like somebody will
Yeah.
see that post, but 10 minutes later they're going to forget about it because there's so many other distractions on Instagram. So that's also another great thing about podcasting, is that evergreen life, and longer shelf life
Yeah.
that it has.
Yeah. I just had a tutor who reached out to me and I've been coaching her for a while now, and she said, "Joanne, I was on a podcast a year ago and I just had a client reach out to me because they heard me on that podcast." Like I don't think that for her, like she had actually realized how huge this is because people will listen to past episodes and you don't get bogged down by all of the visuals that are there. You get like hooked in with a title of like information that you want to learn when you start listening to a podcast, and then you click on the episodes that you want until you decide that you want to binge listen to everything that somebody
Exactly.
has to offer, right? And so I don't know if you saw like the potential in that, but like all of a sudden it was like this actually is a very lucrative method for being able to get found, and like you said, like, people don't have to be so immersed in social media that it sucks up all of their time, and like you had also mentioned, when I create videos, I have to create a different video on different topics all the time and keep coming up with ideas of what to talk about. When I get onto podcasts, I can pretty much be talking about the same thing over and over and over again, just, like, multiple times on different shows and getting the word out there and sharing about, like, who it is that we are. I think that's really, really awesome. And so you had gotten on, lots of podcasts for a while, and then you decided to start your own podcast and begin helping people even more. Tell us about that how that all worked out for you.
Yeah. So I started my own podcast, started then doing my own solo episodes, and also having guests come on my podcast, just like, my guests and Joanne's right now. And that's also another added benefit, is the people that you're going to meet if you choose to have guests on your podcast, which I think depending on the business, but I would say for a tutoring business, having guests is a great idea, because you can make some referral connections, you can make
Mhm.
affiliate connections, you can interview past students, past clients, so that you can show off, how you were really able to help that person. There's so many different ways that you can position a guest interview. You can get really creative with it. That's also another fun thing about podcasting, is that you can be creative. There's no set of rules of like, okay, you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. You can
Right.
really use your creativity to connect. And I feel like that is what really sets a podcast apart from others. It's when
Yeah.
you sound like everybody else, that's when growth is hard. That's when you start to burn out and you're like, oh my gosh, my podcast is not growing. No one's listening. But when you get creative and you have fun with it, it pays off. It really does.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's another way to really network at a whole different level. You're really
Yeah.
having like this special conversation with the person that you are getting to connect with, learning more about what they do. I've even hired like people that I've interviewed on my show. I've hired them. I'm like, I'm in. Like, show me how to do that even more. Cause like, can you look at my numbers? Like, I had Lex Roman on like a month ago, and from there, like we've just continued to just connect and brainstorm and do things together. And you just never know where that next client is, whether it's going to be the person you're interviewing or you become a client of theirs, or it's just so
Exactly.
remarkable. I love the personalization of the experience that happens because of it. And you're doing each other, a great service by letting obviously then your audiences know, and so many good things come. It's unbelievable. I got interviewed one time by a homeschooling mom, and I didn't know she was a homeschooling mom when she had me on her show. And we later found out that she was a homeschooling mom and she had a son that was struggling with reading. And we hooked up afterwards to do a free assessment, see if tutoring could be a good fit for him. And I'm still working with him today. And
Amazing. Yeah.
never knew that that was even going to be a piece of I wasn't even talking about my tutoring. I was actually talking about helping tutors in the business and really talking about my book, the online tutor, how to start an online tutoring business. I'm like looking over there because there it is over there sitting there. But I think like you just never know where those opportunities are. They can go deep, they can go far, they can go wide, they can go, oh, just so many opportunities. So
Absolutely.
in your opinion, would you say that somebody who's just starting off, like a tutor is just starting off, would you suggest that it would be a better idea for them to start off as a guest or to start their own podcast?
I would definitely say start off being a guest first because one, you will get to sort of experience it from the other side and you can really determine if it's something that you would want to invest your time, your energy, your resources on, because I wouldn't want somebody to start a podcast without never having been on the other side of the recording screen, and then all of a sudden you start a podcast and then you do a couple of episodes and then you're like, oh, I actually hate this, right? You don't want that. So start out by being a guest. I would say guest for a couple of months at least, like be a consistent guest and then see like, okay. And I wouldn't say like, oh, did I get clients after a couple of months of being a guest? Like, don't think of like clients yet, but just think of like the experience. Did you make a good connection with those hosts? Did you follow up with the host? Like, did you build a connection? And did you like if it was a good connection, like I've joined my guests Facebook groups, I follow them on social media, like I just want to make sure that they know that I had them as a guest because I actually thought they were cool. Like I actually admired
Yeah.
what they were doing, so I want to continue, I want to stay in touch. So make sure that you're doing those things, and does it feel good to you? Is that a good way for you to get visibility, to grow your network, to build relationships? Because those are things that you need to do to grow a business. If you don't make yourself visible, it is really, really, really hard to grow a business. We can only get so far with referrals. And so yeah, so test it out, do a little test drive, and then think about, okay,
Mhm.
does this feel in alignment with me? Do I have a message that I want to share? And I think for tutors, what I would say is important is to think about things that you're very passionate about, because somebody could tutor, let's say, three different areas, right? So how can you kind of put those under an umbrella, or how can you maybe just go in on one thing? Maybe you still do more than one thing, but you really are focusing on one main thing. So back to this like niching thing, because that's also going to help you really be able to set yourself apart from other
Mhm.
tutors. And think about it. I mean, if you know other tutors, how many other tutors really like do you know that have a podcast? Probably not many. So by you having a podcast, that already like having that title of podcast host, when you're meeting somebody who's going to consider hiring you and they're thinking between you and Joe Schmo, who, doesn't put any content out there for his potential clients, and you're putting out, free content that's educating and entertaining your potential clients, they might choose to go with you because you're just,
Yeah.
you're out there and you're really showing that you care. So it's a great way to just show that you are somebody who wants to serve, and you're very value based. So it's worth considering. And
Mhm.
here's my little tip for people who are not online. I would say you could be like the go-to local person. So you can interview other people in your community. So realtors love to make connections, right? I don't know, insurance agents, the local gift shops.
Mechanic.
I don't know, right? Like you can interview those
Yeah.
people, and then guess what? You become like their their podcast bestie, right? Because you're giving them that airtime, you're giving them visibility. So if they know people that need tutoring, who are they going to think of?
Right.
You, right? Because you are
Yeah,
doing them
yeah.
that nice favor of hosting them. So it's podcasting is not just for online business owners, although I do specialize with working with online business owners, but I think that it could be a really great way for somebody to stand out who is also just doing offline work.
Yeah, yeah. And most of my community is online or wants to be online. So this is it's really great for them just to be able to just hear that, hey, this is a great strategy for networking. It's a great strategy for getting the word out there and visibility. It's a great strategy for um, being comfortable with speaking and talking about the services that you do have, right? Because that can be a really uncomfortable thing. By being a guest, you get more comfortable. The more times that you get onto other people's podcasts, the more comfortable you get talking about it. Otherwise, in the beginning, it feels weird because we've never really had to do that before. So I think it's a great opportunity for people. And I will always find, like, if I am thinking about like doing like my own podcast, thinking about what are those other podcasters doing that I like? Like, taking
Yes.
down notes and getting very specific. I like how they, like, had this contact form where it was easy for me to schedule. I like how they had me maybe sign this agreement, or I liked how they, made me feel when I was on their podcast. You can write down all of those different things that you like and then emulate them when you have your own podcast as well. And I think that's a really
Exactly.
big piece of it. So we've talked about a lot of the benefits of using podcasting for business growth. What types of tools would you say somebody who wants to be a guest on a podcast would need in order to be successful?
Yes. So I would definitely recommend having a microphone. You don't necessarily need to have one. Most computers nowadays have pretty decent built-in microphones. But a microphone just gives you a little extra sound, even though the host most likely will do some editing. It's still kind of nice. Or if not, then I would say use headphones, because that also helps block out any potential background noise that you might have going on. Um, I know, like if my kids are home, I would have headphones on, but they're not here right now, so I can get away with it. And just make sure that you're recording in a room where like there might not be a lot of echoing. So if you have like an open concept floor, don't go in like the middle of your island. Go into a bedroom or even a closet, so that you can get the best sound, because sound is important on a podcast. And I think also then it's like the little things, right? The being a good human type thing, like show up on time. If you need to reschedule, let the host know. I mean, things happen. I've had that happen to me where like either I'm sick or a kid is sick and home with me and I have to reschedule, and the host will understand. Or even if I'm hosting and I have to reschedule with a guest, they'll understand. But just be courteous And also then make sure that you promote your episode, because it's a huge win-win for both. It's not, I think sometimes a lot, and I've had this happen to me, where I get a guest who I think is going to be a great guest, and then it's almost like they think that they're doing me a great favor by being on my show. And it's like, okay, great, yes, it's nice that you are here to share value with my people, but I'm also giving you, the spotlight here. And I think it's nice for to have the reciprocity of like doing the host. They just gave you, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour of their time, and they're going to be promoting the heck out of their episode. So help, like, because that's you on there too. Your
Mhm.
potential clients, your followers, maybe that's the episode that like was going to get them over the fence, right? And so it doesn't hurt, to take a little extra effort to also do your due diligence to share your episodes.
Yeah, and it's not hard to do it, like, if you have an email list, send an email about the episode that you were on, and a lot of people are looking for content anyways to share on their social media, like, if you're on LinkedIn, which everybody, if you have an online business, should be on LinkedIn because you wanna have all of your, credentials and, people can research you on there, but even just put something on LinkedIn. This is putting you in the spotlight of, "Hey, this person interviewed me, check it out," and a lot of people I think you'll be surprised at how many people will listen to your episode. I know I was surprised in the beginning. I had somebody be like, "I listened to every episode that you're a guest on." I'm thinking, "Doesn't that get boring?" Like, you kinda hear the same thing over and over again. But it doesn't because they're like, "I always get, like, something different that I didn't hear
Yeah,
from before," and I just think that's cool because every person who, like, interviews you is kinda coming at it from a different perspective and has different questions, and they're able
totally.
to bring different stories out of you that maybe you wouldn't have. So, don't ever feel like, "Oh, I've been on too many podcasts. People don't people don't want me to share that anymore." They do. But you're introducing them to other platforms as well that might be useful for them that they had never considered before. Other people that can help serve them in, in their business and their life, and it's all a win-win. So yeah, share the heck out of that episode for the person who's taking the time to do all that work for you really, right? They've taken the time to interview you. They've taken the time to yeah. You know what I just realized, like, as I'm going through all of this, I am really bad at asking people and telling them like, "Oh, here's your episode." Like, after I host them, like, that I'm like, "Ah, Joanne, you need to get better at that." Like, you need to, like, ask people to do that because I share the heck out of it, but then I forget to ask the person who was on the episode, "Hey, here's the link. Feel free to share that with your people," or, yeah, so we're always improving, you guys, so nobody is ever gonna be perfect right out of the gate, just know that. Um, you just wanna always put yourself in the learning mode. How can I be better? And then take one step at a time. I think that's gonna help because it can feel overwhelming. Do you feel when people are getting started with guesting or starting their own podcast that they kinda go through overwhelm with the whole process?
Sure. I definitely think so. I think for a lot of people, what I hear is, oh, I went on a couple of podcasts, and nothing happened. Nothing came from it. I didn't get any new leads, or I didn't get any new clients. And I want to be really honest that podcasting is it's a long-term strategy. It's not,
Yes.
it's not like a slot machine. Just put a coin and then all of a sudden, you get a client. But you have to be willing to put in time to do the reps for it to be worthwhile. But again, back to what I said before is that if you're building an online business, and um, if you want to grow your business, if you want to take it to the next level, if you want to be known as an expert in what you do, you have to be putting out content anyway, right? So
Mhm.
a podcast is great. And then, I mean, we can even have another whole nother episode, Joanne, about the beauty of like repurposing. So
Yes.
if, just really quick, like a podcast, you can do a transcript of it. You can
Mhm.
pull quotes out of it. You can create,
Mhm.
short posts, long posts, blogs. Um, if you're recording the video, you can take snippets of the video, you can put the whole video on YouTube. Like there's just so many
Yeah.
things that you can do to repurpose that content so that that could be all you do. I mean, you could just record a podcast episode and then create that into other mini pieces of content. Then you
Mhm.
have like a whole
Mhm.
entire weeks of content there. So,
Yeah.
that's also another benefit of podcasting.
It
But
really is.
yeah, yeah. But as far as podcast guesting, also, I do have um a freebie. I don't know if I mentioned it in the form that I filled out for you, but I do have a form. Um, it's called like guest elegantly checklist, where I help people, because a lot of times some podcast hosts, they'll send you their their Zoom link or anything like that, and it has like their name, but it's like, oh, what was the name of that podcast again, and what was it that we, they don't have a form, so it's like, oh, what were the topics that we said we were going to discuss. So with
Yeah.
my little checklist, you keep track of all those things, so when you show up for your interview, you feel prepared. So I'm happy to share that with any of your listeners. So if you want to
I
reach out to
love
me on
that. I
social
will
media,
put a link inside of the
that'd be great.
description that has that because I think that would be
Yeah.
so helpful for people because my people love checklists, I will tell you. They love checklists. The checklists are so helpful for them to be like, "Okay, what are the steps that I need to take?" Because they forget what the steps are. It's hard to hold them all in there and to be like, "Okay, yep, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this." It just makes them feel so much more confident to be able to do that. So thank you for putting that together. That's a really
Sure.
useful tool. What are some of the big mistakes that you see people make when using podcasting as a growth strategy, and how can people avoid them?
Yeah. So a few of the things are they go into it without really thinking about the purpose, or really putting in the time to think about what is the overall purpose of the podcast, because there could be different things, right? You can have a podcast. So let's just say you're a tutor and you sell packages, right? You sell, like, you don't just do one-off sessions, you sell long-term packages. So, it ends up being, I'm not sure what the going rate for a tutor is, but it could be, several $100s, let's just say, right? So if somebody would consider that like a high ticket purchase, they're most likely not going to buy just by listening to one episode of yours. So you might
Mhm,
need to have like a freebie that you offer them so they can sign up for something free, maybe go on your email list or follow you on social media or a Facebook group, whatever like nurturing place you have for your followers. And there you continue to nurture them, and then you can sell to them. So it might not just be like, oh, you talk about your offers on your episode and then you get sales. So just realizing that it might take a few extra steps too to get sales, but as long as you have a process, as long as and you can test it out. I mean, maybe your audience is willing to buy, from listening to episodes on your podcast. But if you're not seeing it happen, instead of being like, okay, well, this is not working, my podcast is not working, you can just be like, okay, well, what can I do? How can I, like, what changes can I make to maybe get my people, maybe they just need to be more warmed up, maybe they're not ready to
mhm,
click a link and buy, right?
mhm.
So those are some of the mistakes, is like the sort of like expecting sales to come right away, and not planning, um sort of just like being like, oh, okay, well, I see so and so has a podcast, I'm just going to do what she's doing.
Yeah,
Like I said, this is really a great opportunity to get creative and be who you are, so
yeah.
it'll be much more worthwhile if you're just yourself.
Yeah, it sure is. I love it. Thank you. And I've been I tell this to tutors all the time, like don't lose out on that whole email strategy as well because you own your list. When it comes to anything out there, we don't own social media. We don't own I don't own Anchor or Spotify or iTunes. While this is my content, I mean, anything could happen on any day, but nobody can take my email list away,
Right.
right? And so if I can get them on an email list and then I can continue to warm them up, you know, whether they decide to move forward now or they need to consume a lot more content before they're ready to move forward with me, they have the opportunity to do that and they don't forget who you are because I think that's the other piece is people do think with a tutor, they're always going to move forward with you right away. You know what? They might look at your prices right away and be like, well, you're a little bit on the higher side. I'm not going to work with you. I'm going to work with a cheaper tutor. And then they have a bad experience with a cheaper tutor. And then they decide maybe I should invest a little bit more so that I can get the results that I want, right? Wait, let me go forward with that other person that I'm on her email list. She sends me these emails. I've read some of her articles, right? I've warmed them up and I'm constantly putting content out there. And I think those are things that it's a really great strategy to put into place. And then when people want to do other things as well, maybe sell a product, maybe write a book, you have someone that you can at least put it out there too.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. It just puts you in, it builds your brand, your personal brand. That's another
Yeah.
thing worth mentioning because you might be a tutor forever, but what if, like Joanne, like you're saying, what if you decide that you want to branch out into something different or you want to start a second business? Your podcast can be that place where like you already have that initial audience that you can,
Mhm.
you can offer that offer to if they're, if there's ideal people in your audience. So yeah, it definitely helps build your brand. It puts you in a much better position than if you were to try to start something without any kind of following.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing all of your tips of wisdom. Where else can people find you if they are looking to move forward with your services or want to continue to follow you for a little while and learn from you?
Yeah, I would say come check out my website because I have the links to like my social media profiles on there. I'm on Instagram, on LinkedIn. But if you go to juliamhickman.com, I also have a couple of free resources on there. So just check out what I have on there. We do everything from completely done for you launches, we do podcast management, and I also have a course. So for somebody who's maybe like, I don't really have the budget for like a done for you package, or perhaps they're more of a hands-on person, I do have a course that does have access to me. So you get some one-on-one calls with me. And yeah, you can learn more about that on the website too.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you for continuing to support amazing people out there who have a message to share. I feel like everybody has a message that they can share, and you're making it possible through helping them learn more about podcasting. So, you guys, if you're looking to learn more, definitely check it out. I love it. I love it. I love it. And thank you so much for being a guest today and sharing your wisdom. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Joanne. My pleasure.